Hey YouTube, Joeboy here. So, today I want to talk about Isho, also known as Admiral Fujitora, and what it is that he might do in the future, as well as just talk about his character. But before we get into that, I want to let you guys know about Discord. A link for that is in the description. So yeah guys, I'm not going to pull any punches here. Admiral Fujitora is by far my favorite admiral. His powers are cool, his design is cool, and most importantly, his role within the story is cool. Fujitora, with what is revealed about his values and beliefs, and his role as an admiral, could not be any more striking. What is justice? This is a question that One Piece itself touches upon, with the high-ranking Marine officers and even members of Cypherpol each having different perspectives on what the word means, and how best to seek it in the pursuit of making the world a better place. Because don't get it wrong guys, even if the Marines do some heinous things, the thought behind them, the idea behind them, is usually for a good cause, even if we as fans would interpret it as misguided. For someone like Akainu, who is most clearly a major antagonist within the story, he will not stop at any length to destroy evil, or even the possibility of future evil. Now for Akainu, even though it is kind of ambiguous, I think that you can presume evil to him are anybody or anyone who breaks the law, and anybody or anyone who makes the Marines look bad, thus threatening their ability in the future to uphold the law. On the surface, it doesn't sound that bad, until you realize just how extreme Akainu takes this, killing his own Marine subordinates as they flee from Marineford in terror. Now this is definitely a reason why it's very easy to view Akainu as an enemy and somebody who must be taken down. But it is also pretty easy because the laws that he so badly wants to uphold and enforce are in many cases flawed and contrary to what we would perceive as actual justice for everyone. Such as the creation of the Shichibukai system, which lawfully allowed some of the most sadistic pirates to legally commit crimes, and in many cases destroy countries themselves. The creation of the system is really in strong accordance with the idea of absolute justice, of doing whatever it takes, taking on evil in order to conquer greater evil. But it should be noted that evil, just the same as justice, is subject to interpretation. For instance, the world government and the Celestial Dragons decided the greater evil when adding Doflamingo to the ranks of the Shichibukai was the possibility of Doflamingo revealing their secrets and potentially destabilizing their power. And this to me is why Fujitora is so interesting. Let's doctor a quote real fast. If your power destabilizes that easily, if our credibility has been compromised by a single secret revealed, maybe our credibility never existed in the first place. While Akainu believes that the law is gospel and the Marines are good, I am definitely not certain if Fujitora shares this perspective. I ask myself, how can a man willingly and intentionally attempt to make the public aware of the Marines' faults, if not to tell them and the world that they are not perfect, that they are not clean from the stains of evil? Fujitora even said this straight up, that it was because of his desire to remove the Shichibukai system that he ended up becoming an admiral in the first place. Fujitora is not a dog of the Marines. He came in with goals and aspirations outside of what theirs were, and it has already started to create tension. I really think that the major difference between Akainu and Fujitora is that Akainu falls back on the law and the Marines as the source of good in this world, while Fujitora does not believe in the Marines. At least not currently. And so when you're talking about Fujitora, you really have to talk about why is it that he is so dead set on eliminating the Shichibukai system. And if you break down the Shichibukai system, it's simply put, pirates protected by law. And so a lot of people speculate that the Shichibukai, or Shichibukais plural, have in some way wronged Fujitora. But I really don't think so. I think that Fujitora has seen and been wronged by pirates. Pirates as a collective. I believe that Fujitora despises pirates. Now I really feel like skipping the sort of explanation part of this, but I will throw in this, which is that when Fujitora was talking to Luffy, he said this: "How can you be this stupid boy? I've been trying my damnedest to stick to my principles from the very start here, and its principles in this case relates to capturing Luffy, despite Luffy having saved Dressrosa and Fujitora coming to respect him. So then Luffy, being a pirate, is Fujitora's enemy. It seems really obvious when you say it in this way, but I think the distinction is important because it changes Fujitora's narrative from a person who's trying to de-establish the military protection of pirates to Fujitora himself trying to join the Marines in an act to eliminate pirates. That destroying the Shichibukai is only part of Fujitora's greater plans. And this adds up exactly with what Fujitora himself told us, that he joined the Marines so that he could see many of his plans come to fruition, and only one of these plans was abolishing the Shichibukai. And so the story that I get from this, guys, is that Fujitora has witnessed firsthand on many occasions what the pirates have done to the world. While it might be easy to see Luffy and define pirates like him, the majority of them are not like him. Even back when we got to Fishman Island, whenever Goldie Roger started the Great Age of Piracy, we learned from Fishman Island that it became a war zone. And I think through this process, Fujitora began to despise pirates, and to see pirates then protected by law would have been nothing more than a slap to the face to the people of the world. And I think this aligns pretty well with something else as well, which is that the Marines up until this point have been unable to stop the pirates. The New World itself is currently ruled by them. And what's worse is the Marines seem to have accepted their presence and are doing nothing to eliminate them. Or what they are doing isn't working. So going back to Fujitora, a lot of people are wondering what it is that he will do next. And I think the two most popular speculations are that Fujitora will chase down Weevil or will appear and attend the reverie. Or I suppose the third idea is that Fujitora is actually going to attempt to chase down Luffy and then encounter Weevil. But I want to draw attention to Fujitora's actual circumstances as they have been revealed, which is as soon as he prostrated himself to the world and allowed Luffy and Law to escape, Akainu yelled at him and told him that he is not allowed in any marine base across the world until he retrieves their heads. And Fujitora has reaffirmed to us as the audience and other characters within the story that that is his intention. Now, I want you to know how confusing this situation is to me if this were true. It is very clear that Fujitora respects Luffy, having known what he has done in the past to help the world and what he has done recently. He even told Akainu straight up that not being allowed in any marine base was exactly what he wanted. And it reminds me of what Garp told us about being an admiral versus a vice admiral, that Garp stayed a vice admiral because of the freedom that that position offered him. And as an admiral, Fujitora would not have a lot of freedom to do as he chose unless he was in a situation such as this where he's not allowed to return. Right now, Fujitora has the freedom to act and do things as he sees fit, all under the premise that his objective is to capture Luffy and Law, but that doesn't have to be the case. It would seem as though there are more important things Fujitora could be doing. But currently he is escorting Doflamingo, I suppose, to Impel Down, and he said this: "Once we're done with escorting, I plan on going on a trip." Guys, I really do not feel like it is likely that Fujitora will attend the reverie, based on this statement alone and the fact that the reverie is imminent. So then the next obvious theory that you could pursue is the possibility that Fujitora will continue to try and obstruct the Shichibukai in order to abolish the system. But I really don't think that at this time it would be important. The reverie is supposed to occur roughly this year, so it's going to be taking place most probably at the very beginning of Wano, if not before. Fujitora himself emphasized the importance of the reverie in regards to his plan of abolishing the Shichibukai. I believe there's absolutely nothing more that he could potentially do before the reverie occurs, which means that most likely, based on what he has already done, the Shichibukai system is done, or his plans against them specifically have been completed. And I honestly believe this to be true. After what occurred in Dressrosa, the world would no longer trust the Shichibukai. This was world news of the injustice Doflamingo incurred upon Dressrosa. And I believe this will also lead into some of the world leaders capable of attending the reverie speaking out also against the Shichibukai, such as Alabasta. So again, guys, I don't think that Fujitora has to do anything else specifically against the Shichibukai. That plan has completed, and now I think we're going into Fujitora's other plans. And so what could these be? If you've already established the idea that Fujitora hates pirates, and hates the fact that the Marines are unable to deal with pirates specifically in the New World, and even going so far as to accept the Yonko's presence in the New World, and not even attempt to take them down, you could wonder maybe Fujitora might want to inspire this, much the same as he inspired the world's ire of Shichibukai. I wonder if Fujitora's next action will be to set up the Yonko, and force the Marines to deal with them. Basically, Fujitora within the story is acting as a force which will break the balance of powers, and his actions and his plans will attempt to pressure the world government to act rather than passively accept. Fujitora is painted as a kind man, as a reasonable man, as a person who actually pursues some kind of justice that we could relate to. But I wonder if Fujitora in a way attempts to inspire something that could destroy the world. Right now, as it appears to me, the Marines seem afraid of the Yonko, and I think that their fear stems from the possibility of confronting them and it leading to the destruction of the world. So in this way, it's better to just monitor them and only act in the case that it is absolutely necessary. It's almost relatable to nuclear warfare. But what Fujitora has seen from the world drove him to blind himself. And the cause of this evil, as it appears to me for Fujitora, is pirates. While they are allowed to live, the world is doomed. For Fujitora, half measures aren't acceptable because the current state of the world is unacceptable. So then it would make sense for me for Fujitora to attempt to set the Marines on the Yonko and all other safe havens for pirates, despite the possible repercussions of losing or the world getting destroyed in the process. Despite the way that we currently perceive Fujitora, I do believe him to be a very dangerous man, with ideals that are both similarly extreme as Akainu, but vastly different. And so how exactly would Fujitora go about doing this? And this is a great question that I wouldn't have the exact answer for. But we do know that Kaido is dead set on attempting to destroy the world. And I do believe that this is something that Fujitora could use to his advantage. And so, in a hypothetical world, what exactly would the Marines do when confronted with Kaido doing something such as this? And I believe they would use all of their forces to attempt to stop him, potentially beat him or capture him. This is in their ideal world, and then hide the truth from the world. Because in order to preserve the peace, the people of the world must not be aware of the threat that some of the Yonko are. If news spread that one of the Yonko went AWOL and potentially threatened the entire world, and this news spread, then the people of the world would believe that the Yonko themselves must be destroyed, and all other pirates, for everyone's safety. The act of this, much to Akainu's discontent, could possibly set up the world losing confidence in their government and the Marines. Why didn't you already deal with this pirate? This could very well lead Fujitora to do something similar with the Yonko as he just did with the Shichibukai. That is, reveal their threat to the world and force the government to act. Setting up very near the conclusion to One Piece, the world government specifically going out of their way to destroy the remaining pirates, including Luffy. Pirates versus world government. And so guys, some of you might be wondering how this exactly ties in with my other thoughts concerning how the rest of One Piece might play out. And guys, I've always wondered if there might be Marine presence shortly after Luffy discovers Raftel. A sort of epic war centered around Reverse Mountain. And if you guys remember some of my oldest speculations regarding Pluton, I believe that the Sunny will become Pluton after the world government finds Pluton. I could talk forever about this, but I'll just include a link in the description if you don't know what the hell I'm talking about. But the idea is that Frankie somehow saved the blueprints to the Pluton, and that this blueprints for the Pluton were only supposed to be used in the case that the original Pluton was found by the wrong hands. And this ties extremely well into his backstory of having created weapons that were used against his will, and being completely against that, but in this case being forced to do so in order to fulfill the desires of the original designers of the Pluton. But we also know that the Gorosei are very hesitant about even using an ancient weapon if they were to find one. And there is some potential setup. There is a very persuasive theory in my mind of how exactly the world government would find the Pluton, which is that it's stated by Crocodile to be likely to be located in Alabasta. And if it is there, it would make sense for it to be buried somewhere underground. And this would align very well with Pluton, or Hades, being the god of the underworld. And you have Gidatsu in a cover story. Most all of the cover stories end up being relevant. He's digging underneath Alabasta, potentially will find the Pluton, so it gets confiscated by the world government. And then you would have potentially Fujitora setting up the world government, forcing their hand to act against the pirates, which would necessitate the use of an ancient weapon such as Pluton, thereby inspire Frankie to turn the Sunny into Pluton to counter the original as the designers intended. All of this could occur around Reverse Mountain around the time that the Straw Hats find Raftel. And also around the time that Blackbeard and Luffy would be fighting as two of the most prominent and strongest pirates in the world. But the wake of the path that the Pluton takes to Luffy will be paved with fire. And after the conclusion of this battle, Luffy and all of the remaining pirates will team up to head straight to Marie-Joie. But anyway guys, that's how I see it. Obviously the end here, I didn't really justify much of anything, but that's sort of how I place this piece into the overall headcanon narrative in a way that makes a lot of sense to me. And I think everything before then is pretty justifiable in my opinion. But yeah guys, let me know what you think. Let me know if you agree with anything that I said or disagree, and why. Share your thoughts. Like the video if you like the video, dislike the video if you dislike the video. Make sure to check out links to Patreon in the description. Shout out to everyone who is currently at Patreon. I cannot appreciate you guys enough, as well as links to Discord if you're interested in that. Subscribe if you haven't, and as always guys, have a wonderful day.